Hey guys, I just wanted to go over our Podio forms. This is how you submit for a listing or if you have a contract that needs to be submitted. So when you come in here, we'll start here with the listing information first. So this is if you need a listing agreement to be sent out to a client. Obviously, in these spots, they're going to be pretty self-explanatory, but as you go down, you're the agent responsible. This is where your email will go and your phone number. Once you've got that, obviously we're going to put in our seller's name, their mailing address, which typically is going to be the listing address unless it's an investment property or something like that. The seller's phone numbers, the emails. If you need to add another seller, in here you'll put both, like if it's a husband and wife, you'll put the husband and wife's name here. And then down here for phone numbers, you can add another. And this is just going to be where you put in the spouse's phone number. Try to keep everything as you're putting this stuff in. So if it's husband and wife, you want to make sure you've got husband's phone number, wife's phone number. Same with emails. Down here, the full listing address, even if it is the same as their mailing address, go ahead and put this in here. The listing appointment, that is when you went on the listing appointment. And then as far as how we're going to communicate with the seller, are they going to take calls, texts, or emails? Or if they're going to take all three, obviously you can leave all three checked. Their work schedule and availability. This is basically just making sure that if our transaction coordinator needs to schedule anything with them, what is the best time to talk to them and get that done? The next thing is exclusions. As we all know, there are going to be exclusions that you're going to put on the MLS, if there are any. That's where you're going to put that. So let's say they're taking the washer dryer, or they're leaving the washer and dryer, or they're taking the stove with them because maybe they just bought it and they don't want to not have it for the next house. Curtains, TV mounts, etc. Is there an HOA? Obviously here, that's going to be a pretty straightforward one. Is there HOA? Yes, it's mandatory. Yes, it's voluntary, or no, there's not. HOA, what does it include? Most of the time, it's just going to be community maintenance, but if there is a pool in their property, you can definitely put that here. If there's anything special that they want to point out, that'll help offset the buyer's concerns with any costs that there may be. Who is the HOA company? What are their dues and when are they due? And what's the phone number for the HOA company? Next is listing price. How long are we listing it for? And what's the total commission? So this total commission, if we're paying both sides 3%, this total commission here is going to be 6%. Now we do have a $4.95 broker admin fee. This is to help offset some of the cost of taking photos and things of that nature. So if it's being paid for by the seller, you'll just put that and that'll get taken out at closing. If you're going to cover it, you can put paid for by the agent. If it is going to be waived, first off, you would put paid by agent, but you want to make sure that you talk to the sales manager and make sure you have approval to waive that. If it's something where we're listing $1 million house and they're going to balk over a $495 broker fee, then call us and let's get that waived or see about waiving that for them. Listing services. Basically, this is just going to be it's going to be listed on the MLS within 5 days of this agreement, and if not, why? So if there is a reason that we're not going to go in the next 5 days and put this live, let us know. Maybe we have to get some stuff moved to get pictures. Maybe they have to get the house cleaned or have some landscaping done or whatever the case is. Just make sure you put that information here. Financing options. It's just going to be cash, conventional, FHA, or VA. If there's anything outside of that, make sure you put it in the additional notes down at the bottom. But this financing options are going to be, you need to make sure you keep in mind that if it is an investment property that is within, under the 90 days, that's something that needs to make sure we make note of that. What day are we going active? So if we pick up a listing, on a Monday and it's going to go active on a Thursday, then the date Thursday is going to go right there. If there's any preparations or delays in scheduling for the photography, let's go ahead and put that in here. Again, that goes back to they need to do some landscaping. They want to wait until the weather's better, etc. And then are there any additional addendum or disclosures needed? It's not our TC's responsibility to know that this house was built in 1972 and needs a lead-based paint addendum, or that it needs an on-site sewer because they have septic. That's your job as an agent to make sure that you let our transaction coordinator know that. So make sure that you are taking good notes as you're talking to the client and that you're going through all of that so you can make sure we get the right stuff added in there. If there's anything like a survey, T47, anything like that, you can attach it down here at the bottom. And if there's anything else that the transaction coordinator needs to know, you need to put it in those additional notes. The more details you can give our transaction coordinator, the less they're going to have to call you to get more details. So make sure that you are going through and putting all that stuff in there. So anything that they may need to know. Now let's take a look over here at the 1-to-4 contract. So this is our 1-to-4 contract, Podio. Just starting at the top, again, agent responsible is you, agent email, seller's name, buyer's email, buyer's phone. This is assuming that you are the buyer's agent. MLS number for the house, property address, contract type. It's going to be our 1-to-4 typically. Obviously, we do have condominium, unimproved properties, commercial, etc. Going down to exclusions, if there's nothing on there, obviously you'll type in none like it says here. But one thing that you won't put in here is minerals. If minerals are excluded, then that's going to be a whole separate document and you'll put that in the notes down at the bottom. Exclusions do not include minerals and mineral rights, etc. This is going to be more for, again, curtain rods. They're taking the blinds, they're taking TV mounts, they're taking the built-in stove or whatever. Cash down, obviously that's going to be their down payment, financing amount, and sales price. Little inside secret, cash down plus financing amount should equal your sales price. Your financing type, conventional FHA or VA. If your person is paying cash, then you'll put your cash down here, you'll put $0 there, and the sale price will be the same as the cash down. If there's any leases currently, whether it's a residential lease, a fixture lease, natural resource lease, which would be basically like somebody's drilling for oil on there and there's a pipeline or something of that nature. Or if there's no leases, you're going to put NA. And then here, if there's a natural resource lease, the buyer may terminate within how many days. So if the natural resource lease is not to the buyer's liking or something of that nature, it's not going to work out. How many days do they have to terminate? Going down to earnest money, you just put your earnest money amount. Typically that's 1%, but depending on the market, your client may want to adjust that. Same with the option fee. Typically you're looking, $150, $200, depending on the price of the house. So you put that in there. If your client is going without an option, which I don't recommend, but it could be something they decide to do just to strengthen their offer, you'll just put a 0 there. And then how many days is that going to be under option? What title company are we using? Who's the escrow agent that we're using over there? Where are they located? Who pays for the title policy, whether it's the seller or the buyer? I know when we're in a really hot seller market, the buyer's typically paying for this, as well as the survey and anything else that needs to be paid for. The survey, you just put in here who's providing it and who's paying for it. So if the buyer's paying for a new survey, then that's what you're going to put here. If the seller's paying for a new survey, that's obviously you'll click that. If no survey is needed, maybe it's a large parcel of land or something like that, then you can click no survey needed. But otherwise, we want to make sure that we're letting the transaction coordinator know what option we're selecting. Seller's disclosure, if you have it, you want to make sure that your buyer has received it. And what I typically recommend is you go ahead and download that, get it over to your buyer so they can take a look at it. But you're also, since you downloaded it, you'll upload it down here, just the same as we saw in that listing agreement. So coming in here, buyer accepts the property as is. Typically, that's what you're going to click. If there is a certain condition, so the buyer accepts as is with the caveat that the seller is going to replace the entire roof. Maybe the roof's in bad condition or something. So you would put that in here. Home warranty allowance. I know in the last year or so, we haven't really been doing home warranties because we're trying to compete with tens of offers. So we want to make sure that if there is going to be a home warranty allowance, maybe we put $580 there. Or if we're not doing that at all, we'll put a 0. What's our proposed closing date? Remember, closing dates are a moving target, but this is obviously what we're striving for. So maybe it's the 22nd. And then are we taking possession at closing and funding, or is there going to need to be a temporary lease? A lot of the a lot of the offers in this market right now are taking a temporary lease and there's no charge for them. But if in that case there was going to be a temporary lease and there was going to be a charge, you just put temporary lease, and then you'll need to make sure that you communicate with the transaction coordinator what you're trying to get done for that temporary lease. Seller paid closing cost. This is basically if the seller's helping out with closing. This is where you're going to get money, or you'll put zero. Listing broker's information, you can pull all that from the MLS. You'll put it in here. And then obviously their broker and license number, agent and license number, agent email, and agent phone number. And then any notes for the transaction coordinator that we need to make sure that we note that the transaction needs to take care of. Because with the coordinator, this is going to be your easiest way to communicate with them. Obviously, if they have questions, they can call you and get those questions answered. But this is going to be what you're going to use to really help them understand what you're trying to achieve with your offer. Are we talking about anything extra? Is there any other documents that need to be added to this? Our transaction coordinator is licensed, so they are aware of what needs to be done. But if there's anything extra, then you'll want to make sure you put that in there. And then any other disclosures or addenda that was on the MLS listing, you can download and attach it here. If you have any questions, obviously reach out. But these are the two documents that we use. We also have one for buyer's rep agreement. It's the same thing, but we're getting that one finalized right now. Y'all have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.